Here we are with 60 Seconds with Jerome Gaslain.
Hello.
So, first question. What's the least favourite app on your phone?
My least what?
Least favourite app on your phone?
My least favorite app? Oh, I'm going to make some enemy. But Conquer, the expense app from WPP. I'm sorry.
Least favourite colour?
Least favorite color? Probably yellow.
Yellow. Oh, poor yellow.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I had to think about it. So,
Yeah, you
It
did.
wasn't an obvious
So
one.
I'm not sure.
You always get asked the favorite color. So I was like a bit surprised.
Well, you know us. Who's your favourite brand right now? Or what's your favourite brand right now?
Y3. I'm a Y3 fanatic.
I think I could have guessed that, to be
Yeah, I know.
honest.
I'm like, it's just...
A city everyone should know about?
Rennes in France. Yeah, it's in Brittany. It's very nice.
Okay.
I study there. It's beautiful.
Your career in a noise?
Ta-da!
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Apple every time.
Yeah.
I first met Jerome when I started to explore the industry in Amsterdam a little bit more and kind of dig a bit deeper into advertising there. And I think it probably pestered you until you agreed to have a call with me and tell me a bit more about what was going on so I could pick your brains. But yeah, you're currently a creative director over at AKQA. So that is how we met.
Yeah. You didn't pest me that much to make
It
you
was
feel
a
good.
soft pester.
No, but I like everyone, I saw the LinkedIn post. LinkedIn is my favorite social media platform, by the way.
Yes, you've told me
I
this
love
before.
LinkedIn. And I was having a debate with friends in industry yesterday at the pub, since I'm in London, about how people hate LinkedIn. I was like, I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn's great. I love LinkedIn. And yeah, I mean, of course, I saw all the posts from her on LinkedIn, and I was wondering if I was like, they talk differently, and they must use a copywriter or something, but they have to. There is something different. So, when you reached out, of course, I heard about Unknown, and it was a little bit easier. And then we do have a big, like every agency that grows, at AKQA Amsterdam, we do have a lot of needs. So of course, we always need people to fulfill those needs. So yeah, it's good timing as well.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been over at AKQA Amsterdam now?
How long? Just under 2 years. Yeah, just under 2 years. But I've been with AKQA for close to 4. I was at AKQA Sydney, and I moved to AKQA Amsterdam. And then I've been with WPP, which is the holding groups of AKQA for 6 years or 7 years or something like that. So yeah, I've been in one family for a long time.
Yeah, that is a long time, especially in agency sense, I think, and advertising world. 6 years seems like 10 almost, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can keep being challenged, I think that's the key, right? I mean, as long as you keep being challenged, and of course, moving from AKQA Sydney to AKQA Amsterdam had some challenges.
Yeah.
I was doing things in AKQA Sydney and Melbourne way, and then I come to AKQA Amsterdam. Yes, it's the same agency, but it's a different people, it's a different market, it's a different way of doing things. So there was an adjustment. It was not just easy going from AKQA to AKQA. It was actually quite an adjustment. But yeah, I mean, after 3 months, I find my footing. But as long as you keep being challenged and you have interesting project, you work with interesting people, smart people that we do at AKQA. So yeah, it's easier to stay that way.
Yeah. How did you find the transition from sunny Sydney to less sunny Amsterdam?
Well, everybody asks me that question. It's like, are you mad? And I'm like, well, I didn't come here for the palm trees and the beach, so that's okay. No, I mean, it was. I wanted to do it for a long time. I will be back to Australia at some point. This is home. Sydney is home, so I will be back to Australia some days. But yeah, the transition was. I mean, I've been to Amsterdam before, so. But it wasn't hard, but I don't know, it wasn't as easy as well. It's a different way of doing things, not just at work, but in life. It's just biking everywhere. Yeah. I haven't been on a bike since I was 16. You don't bike in Sydney. I mean, you could if you want, Some people will be like, yes, you bike in Sydney. But, you don't. It's too hot. There's a lot of hills. It's very difficult. And the drivers are not used to bicycles. So, you have to bike. You have to get used to the rain. The first 2 months I was using Uber every time it was raining. It cost me too much money, so at some point I had to buy a poncho and
some waterproof trousers.
Cycle, which I do now with no problem. Rain or shine, I don't have a problem jumping on the bike. But yeah, and then when you come to a new city, I mean, I'm lucky because my partner is Dutch. But when you jump into new life and new cities, there's always an adaptation. You know, people doing things differently. So it wasn't as hard, and it's an English-speaking country, fortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was easier that way.
How did you find the pace of the lifestyle? I think a lot of people who I speak to in Amsterdam say it's kind of like a place of its own with the nature of the pace of things and the lifestyle, and it's much more important to them to have that balance from work. Did you find that?
Yes, but there is two answers to that question. Is like you got the Dutch agencies that of course protect their work-life balance very much, and that's ingrained into their culture. But we are a global agency like Wyden or 180 is. So we have 27 or 29 nationalities. I think Chris Anderson, our managing director, will know that better than me, but I think 27 or 29 nationalities. So we are a global agency. So we do work on a different time than the local Dutch agencies, which mean, yeah, we work a little bit longer, I believe. So the work-life balance is not the same as in Sydney as well. In Sydney, it's very okay to leave at 5 p.m., go to the gym, because it's important. Everybody goes to the gym. And then work a little bit later if you still have stuff to do.
Okay.
It'd be quite difficult, I think, in Amsterdam too. I mean, we could. It's not difficult, but it will be quite uncommon to say, sorry, I got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
You got to go where? To the gym. It's not something that is ingrained in the culture. So you have to be at work until you finish and then you go home. But yeah, normally the Dutch are pretty good with the work-life balance.
Nice. Who was the first person that made you feel talented?
In advertising or in general
Just
in life?
in general in life.
My grandmother. I mean, it's such a cliche answer. But
no,
yeah.
not at all.
I was drawing a lot when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I love illustrating. It's probably why I get to advertising later. But I was drawing all the time. And yeah, my grandma was the one putting everything on the wall, even the bad one.
The bad ones are the best ones to put on the wall.
You know, on the fridge, on the wall, even framing some of them. And I will draw on the printing paper, which is horrible. It's not the good quality paper.
Oh, yeah, it's like the really thin stuff,
It's got the
it?
holes on the side that you can take off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she used to tell me that I was very good and I should be an illustrator. She was very disappointed when I went to law school.
I mean, you went full circle at least and kind of came back to it.
Kind of.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that kind of leads us on to how did you get started in your creative career? What was the path towards that?
I was lucky. I was invited I was working for a law firm called Brins Lawyers in Sydney, Australia, and I got invited to barbecue.
Okay.
And I went to that barbecue and there was people working for MNC Saatchi at the time. And I told them that I didn't really like my job. I wasn't creative enough. And they told me about, why you don't just try advertising? And I was like, well, I never thought about it. And then, long story short, it took 1 year for me to make the jump. But from that connection, from that barbecue, I met a few people and was able to make a plan to quit my job, to go into advertising, knowing that it was really hard to get into, doing award school. And from that point, I just said yes to everything I'm invited to. That's why I'm here today. If you invite me, even if I don't like the artist or whatever it is, I will come because you never know what's going to happen. If I don't go to that barbecue, I'm not talking to you today. Yeah,
that is mad. It's quite 12 months. You say it like it's a long time, but it's not to transfer from law to advertising. It must have been like a baptism of fire.
My boss, Philip Breen, was like, are you mad? You're going to go dress up like a hobo to make no money? For a career in what? Advertising? It's like the circus for him. Yeah. So it was quite... And then my girlfriend at the time, which I was fiancé, engaged to, was also thinking I was mad,
I think that they're the best ones, though, when everyone else thinks that you're mad. It's the most exciting point to be like, no, I'm going to do this for me. I think it makes the best stories as well. What's the difference between good and bad creative for you?
Difference between good and bad creative. I mean, there's great, good, and bad, so there is quite different scale. But between good and bad, I think it's when there's a lack of passion from the agency and the creative or anybody in the agency, of course, it's not going to be as good. But I think because it takes a great client to do good or great work. So quite often, you know, you need to be two to tango, and we often forget that you need a great agency, great people in the agency, and a great client relationship to do good work. So to do bad work, you have one of the two or the two that are failing along the way.
Interesting. And obviously you have spent a lot of time in Sydney, now you're in Amsterdam and moving around. What would you say is the main thing that's changed since leaving Sydney?
Well, my tan is not that nice. I'm definitely whiter.
Not going to get them in Amsterdam. No tans there.
My biking skills are much better.
Yeah.
I think what was good about leaving Australia after so long and coming to Europe is having more of a global approach. I mean, I did that in Sydney. I was lucky to work on global accounts, and I went to LA for a short stint. But Europe is such a big market with so many different cultures that it really opened myself and my vision into even more of a global perspective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Amsterdam's really a city for that, for the global side of it as well, with the agencies that are there and the work that's coming out of them. It's quite insane for such a small place.
Yeah, and you know, we're in Amsterdam, but the last 2 big campaign we did was for China, India, Korea market. So you're based in Amsterdam, but you're actually open to the world.
Yeah,
it will not happen as much in Sydney, of course. And then even if you do local work for EMEA, for Europe, you know, I mean, 300 kilometers away is Germany, you know, in the middle of Germany, and that's a different culture, a different way of doing things. I love that. It's really, really, really good.
Nice. So sticking to Amsterdam for a while then.
Yeah.
That's the plan. What do you think the industry needs to be concerned about right now?
There's so many things to be.
Shall I list them all? Or?
There's so many things to be concerned about. I think there's one thing that is a bit dormant and might be a bit controversial, but wokeism is something that is really getting into advertising agency in general, everywhere in Australia, in Europe. And I think as a sentiment is very good. And it does mean waking up, which I think we all need to wake up. And I think the industry is doing that slowly, too slowly for a lot of people, for myself as well. But I think it's coming, like when it's become an ideology or a culture, I don't think it's really right, because advertising and creativity enrich himself from different point of culture in the past to make it better quite often. But the pointing fingers is not helping anybody. We need to make sure in advertising, because we have a platform to talk to people through the brands that we represent. To make sure that.
What do you think agencies could be doing to try and conquer that a little bit more?
It's difficult because it's a global issue. So I don't know. I'm more talking. I think when we talk to each other and we listen, it's much better. Yeah,
for sure. I think it's like when you strip it back to the basics of that, isn't it? Of actually, let's just talk about it and figure it out together, rather than everyone kind of backing away and letting someone else lead it.
Yeah, compassion is a big thing. I mean, you know, we talk a lot about it in advertising, but we have to do it at every level.
Cool. What type of project excites you the most?
Well, on a personal level, anything that I have to do with a bit of fashion and some kind of that kind of influence, if I can, especially in art direction in the past. But otherwise, any job you can make a difference, and not just in society. Of course, that's the best type of work because you feel good about it. But also for a brand, you know, that's why I like longer partnership instead of one-off brief, just because you can build something and make a difference slowly but surely. I like those kind of brief or those kind of project when you can see, you look back and say, well, we made a difference at some level.
Yeah. And do you think that to do that, it is important to have those more partnership-led relationships that you can build off and create more of a brand platform with? Yeah,
it's hard to do, and it's become more rare, I think. But when you can build a relationship across multiple briefs or across multiple years, that's wishful thinking. But I think the work is much better. Yeah.
Sweet. What do you think pisses you off the most about the industry?
You know, at heart, I'm French, so I will always win a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, I'm joking. But I really, you know, I was really lucky to have great tutors and mentors when I started at MNC Saatchi in Australia. Great people that taught me the ropes of the business as much as they could. We don't do that anymore. We don't have time. it pissed me off to use your term that we don't help mentor and tutor our young creative, young strategists, young account service producer, all our young generation advertising. We need them to be productive straight away, and we often have them being accountable for work, and they're not always ready for it. We don't spend the time to help them achieve success, really. And it's not just for young, actually. It's not just for junior in any department. It's also for senior creative that want to be creative director. We don't take the time anymore to from one day to another, you're a creative director and you have responsibilities, and you need to do a lot of things that you didn't know how to do before. And we don't have time, or we don't take the time to help them achieve that next step.
Do you think it is that you don't have the time, or that it's not expected to take the time anymore?
No, I do think, you can always take the time if there's 24 hours in a day, so you can always extend it. And, on a personal level, I do. I always try to make the time to go for coffee, to have a chat. But it is hard. You have to squeeze it. So is it quality? Not always. A 15-minute coffee run is good, but it's not enough. It's quite often.
Yeah.
Being able to have people making mistakes, especially for creative, or art directors in particular, making mistakes in your layout and being able to have the time to make mistakes and learn of your mistakes to be better. That's something that we don't always have time to do.
And how do you think that's going to change the trajectory of the industry or agencies?
It's not. I don't think it's going to get better. It's for all of us to really try to take a stand and compromise. We can't go back to what it was, but we can't also go into the wall and just having the work that is the turnaround being faster and faster and faster. We're already very fast, and we're going faster and faster. But the quality and the well-being of our employees are suffering because of it. So I think we need to find a compromise. Yes, it's a faster world. We need to be faster, but we also need to look after our people. And mentoring is a big part of it. So
for sure. Yeah, I think that there is always the difficulty to balance the level of craft and the work and then the time. And I think that's something that is always kind of like a battle to find that balance within advertising itself. It just seems to be the main blocker often of good work to great work.
Yeah, it's also we're in a timesheet driven industry.
Yeah.
So where's that hour went? Did you go for? I can put an hour talking to anyone in the agency, but a midweight copywriter can't. Not really, anyway. They need to be productive. So, it's a balance between productivity and trying to take a bit more time. It's difficult.
What is something everybody believes in that you don't?
Well, aside of working faster and faster.
Yeah, we covered that one.
I think there's one thing that I think we all tend to believe, me too sometime, and I have to take a step back, is all the work need to be purposeful. When I say that, is 90% of our brief, if not more, have to have a reason behind just selling a product or a service. And that's all fine when it's not forced in, but I have a hard time believing that every brief and every project need that kind of layer. Sometimes you're cold, you need a jacket. You're thirsty, you need water. There is a truth to the basic needs of human beings that we're trying to sell product to. That doesn't always need saving this or saving that every time. Of course, as much as we can, we should, and we do. But not every time for everything. I think sometimes we get a bit oblivious of our own importance and trying to have more and more layers. And the people want some purpose into brands. That's definitely a given, but not at every level and not for everything all the time.
Yeah,
you get washed a little bit otherwise.
Yeah, I have this conversation quite a lot, and I think people, especially juniors, mid-seniors, are now almost worrying that the work that they're making isn't purpose-led enough. And I always have the conversation that there's so many different layers to purpose. Of course, there are the things that are saving the world and changing the planet and making an impact. But also I think people forget if your work is making somebody laugh in a day and they see something and it cheers them up or it makes them think of something else, that's still purpose. And I think that that's something that is kind of being lost in it's like a sweep, isn't it, of everything needs to change the world, whereas a funny advert can have as much impact as anything for people. So yeah, I've noticed that I'm having that a lot and having to not reassure people, but yeah, almost reassure them that you don't have to be a superhero every single day, and people do just sometimes need a jacket because it's cold.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and there's a lot of backlash sometimes if you look at Coca-Cola sponsoring the COP26. And, you know, we work for the Coca-Cola group, and I can tell you they spend a lot of money. Do they do enough? No, at my level, I don't do enough. You don't do enough. Nobody's doing enough, you know.
yeah.
And they're the same. They might be a company, a group, but they don't do enough. Yeah, they should do better. But you can see the backlash that there is on those kind of example. You know, it's not always a good thing.
What is something nobody is talking about, but we should be talking about?
Aside of the lack of mentoring for young people, I think we don't talk enough about the use of AI in the very near future in what we do. Like, there is another employee that is coming into the office, and it's AI. You know, and I'm not talking about Midjourney or whatever. That's great, but I'm talking like in the next year or so. You know, I don't have a crystal ball, but we're gonna have to work with it quite a lot, and it's gonna be a new component, and it's gonna be an access that is not just the privilege of advertising agency, but our client as well. So, how do we integrate that? I don't think we talk about it yet, and we should.
Yeah. Do you think that it's a hindrance almost that we're not talking about it and preparing for it already?
We're not very good at preparing ourselves. Like, you know, when Facebook arrived as social media, we just took it and like, oh, what do we do? You know, I mean, it was the same, and it's the same now with Web3. I mean, you got every agency and group are trying to gear up for it, but we already gearing up quite late, and I don't think, you know, we're doing the best of it. And it's the same with the use of AI. I don't think we're really ready yet. And we're going to use it when it's already everywhere. And we're like, okay, we need to use it. I think that's something that we need to do better at being a bit more preemptive into how we're going to use it to our advantage and to the advantage of the client that we work for. If we don't do it, it will be an afterthought, and then it will take us a year or two to catch up. As we did many times in the past for many innovations.
For sure. I think it's kind of the same. It always seems to be the same process of like when social first came, and it could have been such a massive platform to use, whereas it was always an afterthought of, oh, okay, how do we now make this relevant for social or put this on social? And now it's so funny that it seems to be the same of, okay, how can we integrate this into Web3 or use Web3 rather than leading with that as the frontier. So yeah, it seems like it's always a bolt on until it's kind of too late to then make it a full relevant thing for your brand.
It is. I mean, I often say, and pardon my French, but we fucked up the opportunity that was social media back in 2006-07. It's good, but it could have been better. Let's not do it again with Web3. Let's learn from our mistake and do it better.
I hope so. I think there are so many brands doing so many amazing things in that space, and I'm absolutely no expert, but it just always seems like there could be more. And I think we're at that point now of where it's real and it's a thing, and so many brands are kind of looking at each other thinking, maybe we should have started doing that when they did, and then trying to play that catch-up element, which probably then aids into why advertising is very much like, how quickly can we do this rather than how well can we do this?
We're very reactive. So that's always been the case.
Yeah.
Again, you come back to the lack of time and the lack of time to invest in people and resources. So yeah, we're always very reactive. You know, Web3 is coming. Okay, well, we cross that bridge when it's there. AI is coming. Oh, we cross that bridge when it's there. It's kind of the approach that we're having. I know there's a lot of effort being made across every agency and holding groups to be ready, but yeah, it's not optimum.
Yeah. Do you think that you could ever be truly ready for it though?
No, there's always going to be a side of unexpected because it's new.
Yeah.
But I think you can make a plan quite ahead in terms of resources, in terms of how we're going to cut her for that new space. But no, you're going to have surprise. You're going to learn along the way. I mean, if you remember the first digital department in agencies, or you know, they were learning on the way. I mean, you are digital specialists. I remember meeting social media specialists in 2007.
Yeah.
And now I see on LinkedIn metaverse specialists. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah, there's always a specialist, isn't there? And you're like, wait, is this not just our job? Yeah, for sure. What are big mistakes people make that they are oblivious to?
I'm not sure if they are oblivious to, but assumption, it's a big enemy in advertising or creative in general. For creative, for strategists, as soon as we have assumption, it's bias the work, it bias the outcome, and we all have them. You know? At AKQA Amsterdam, we're fortunate to have Jordan as a brand, which is of course geared towards basketball, which is one of my biggest passions. But I do have a lot of assumption about it, being a fan of the NBA, playing the game for 30 years. 30 years already. But so assumption is, you know, and assumption is an enemy. We all have them. So you get the brief from strategy or the creative, and we already think we know things, or we know things about people.
Yeah.
And you need to put them aside, which is difficult, and be open to not having those assumption and preconception on the product, on people, and what people want. It's very hard to do. You know, you can't succeed every time. But that's also why I don't think at AKQA Amsterdam I'll be the best on Jordan, just because I'm too involved into basketball to have that perspective.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to look at it as not something that I love, but a product that cater to the needs of people.
Yeah, I was going to ask from that. Do you think that it is often beneficial to have someone working on a brand that they don't really know much about already, and they're not maybe biased towards as a brand?
I believe in it anyway. There's two type of thinking, right? But I believe that if you put somebody on basketball that never touch a basketball, never watch a game, I believe they will have great success. They'll be able to see things that I can't see because I love basketball, and that's the same in every product. You know, I think it's beneficial to the work. They will give you a perspective. They might have to learn a few things along the way, yes, but they can read, they can go on YouTube. I mean, you're not gonna, you know, you can get around basketball as an example very quickly.
Yeah.
But they will look at things differently, and I think it's beneficial. I think it's something we need to do. Sometimes we look for, you know, the right people that are passionate about the subject to put them on a brief, and it's not always the best outcome.
Yeah, I think people can. I don't want to use the word lazy, but I can't think of another one to use. But I think it is easy to get lazy on a brand or a topic or something that you are passionate about already, because, like you say, you miss out on a breadth of stuff that you assume that other people would know. So.
Yeah, and you're working as a team, so you don't want to be the person in the team that know.
Yeah.
Well, I play basketball, so I know. You know, I watch NBA every day, so I know. No, you don't want to be that person because you will cut a lot of new thinking straight away. And so I do think it's beneficial to have people that don't know anything about the brand or the subject.
Yeah. What change is happening that people aren't noticing?
I mean, I don't know if people aren't noticing it. They might be noticing it, so I'm sorry if I don't answer the question fairly, but there's a lack of enthusiasm and fun that I noticed the last 5 years, perhaps. Perhaps it's longer, I don't know. But I think we have to keep it fun. Such a cliche to say that. And I keep repeating it at the office and just have fun with it. But it's important. What we do is quite playful. Yes, there is a lot of things at stakes, you know, but and there is KPI for the agency, for the managing director, for the head of strategy, for the creative director, for everyone. But at the end of the day, it's quite fun, you know. And I think we tend sometimes to, I'm surprised that a lot of younger generation take it quite seriously. I can see in our office, like sometimes it's a little bit too serious. You know, they take it very seriously. The brief is serious. The outcome have to be serious. Even the conversation in meetings are quite serious. And there is room for seriousness. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
This is not a joke, but it is quite playful. You know, we have a playful job, and it's a playful industry, and we have to make sure we keep it that way to a minimum. And I'm talking playful in the work, not playful Friday night at the local bar. I'm talking like in the work on how we come up with solution.
Yeah.
And if you can bring positivity every day and be playful, you will have better work. Yeah.
What do you think has been a factor of people leaning more towards seriousness?
Again, I think it comes back to the same thing every time. The pressure of delivering. Less time, more time sheets, and the pressure of delivering mean that there is not much room to not take it seriously.
Yeah.
And also, you know, life is more and more difficult to some regards. There is more and more expectation. So your job and the salary that come with more responsibilities outside of work. And I think that make people a bit more serious about things, not just work in general, but also like the way they approach life, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because of price increase and everything. So everything is related, you know? You don't have one thing, it's a domino effect. So people come to work and they become very serious. It's a way of living, it's an income to pay your rent or your mortgage, and they take it very seriously.
Do you think the lack of mentoring has also like aided into that?
Yeah, it's all intertwined. You know, like the lack of mentoring, the lack of support also doesn't help to not be so serious all the time. And when we have challenges or when things doesn't go our way, which happen every day, of course, it's okay to take a step back and not lose sleep over it, you know. And the lack of mentoring doesn't prepare, younger generation across every department to have a bit of a I'll be okay. We'll be okay, you know.
Yeah, I definitely
we'll do
think,
it together.
Yeah, there is like a lack of that, of what's the worst that will happen type of thing. Like it will all work out as long as we are working together.
Yeah.
So maybe that has lent into it.
Yeah.
The pressure side of it, for sure.
Yeah, it will be a new day tomorrow, and it's very cliche to say again, but you know, I mean, the day will keep going, and you will go home at some point. You might go home very late, but you will go home at some point.
Will be going
home. And things will keep turning. So we will find solution together is the best things you can say to everyone.
Nice. So Elon Musk acquires Twitter. I don't think that anyone's been able to avoid seeing that. I was keen just to chat with you about it and see, just initially, how do you think that it will change the Twitter that we know and love, if you do think it will change it?
Oh, but it's definitely going to change it. I think it already changed it. I think the best tweet I've seen is, what was it? The bird is freed or something like that.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
And that sentence was already, you know, if you need one sentence about what's happening at Twitter, is that sentence. I think for me, first, it's a great headline. If he was a copywriter, I think it's a great headline. He's not. But yeah, I mean, it's changing Twitter, of course. It's very polarizing now. I mean, whatever you like Elon Musk or not, they're going to be taking side. You know, there's people who's going to leave, people are going to join because of Elon Musk. And what he's doing with it, I don't even know how it happened, to be honest. I don't even know how they let it happen. I'm still trying to get my head around it because it was going to happen. It didn't happen, but it happened anyway. And I'm like, how did we let, you know?
It's crazy. I don't have a clue how. But I think everyone's kind of in that boat of thinking how, and then we're all kind of just stood back and watching the journey and waiting to see.
And to his credit, it's testament of his power,
yeah.
being able to be like, no, I'm gonna get it, and I'll get it. But of course, now it's changing, and I don't think personally, it's only my opinion, but it doesn't change for the better. You know, I mean, the first things he did just already showed us that it's not for the better. And I'm not just talking about the layoff, of course. That's an obvious one, but also the way is communicating about it on an everyday basis, using Twitter to do it, allowing Trump to come back and allowing people that have been banned for good reason to come back and saying the bird is freed. In his mind, it's a very different way of thinking that we do. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a platform that's going to evolve very well. But it will have fans. It will still be popular, I think.
Yeah. I think it will breed a whole new fan base, like you said, and I think it will attract a lot of people that have never really used it or taken it seriously before. How do you think it will impact how brands use it as a platform?
Brands will use it if there's people. So, I mean, you know, unless Elon Musk decides to do something really outrageous, like Kanye West did recently, multiple times. But otherwise, they will still, if it stay in line somehow, I mean, you know, they will use Twitter the same way we use Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and everybody else. So they will still be involved. But of course, they're going to be brands that don't want to be part of it. And this is also why he's probably bringing his new membership or credential checking price point to try to compensate for the loss of revenue that he's going to face, especially in the next 6 months. But yeah, I think some brands will still be there because the target audience is there. But of course, a lot of them will go away.
What do you think of his decision to charge for a blue tick?
Yeah, I mean, it goes with the whole character, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, He's got to compensate for some loss of revenue. That's quite clear. I think that's the mathematical logic answer. But it's also a way to give credential to everyone. So now you do have open source. I mean, I can say something, and I'm the truth because I just say it. And of course, fake news is being very popular on Twitter now.
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't before, but there was not credit given to it as much as Instagram or TikTok, which is full of it. But I think Twitter is going to become the same now. You will not be able to take Twitter with checked information as you did before. So and that's what Elon Musk wants. I think every opinion to be heard. I will not be surprised if the guy is running for the White House in a few years, you know, and using Twitter as a platform in a post-Trump era, and Biden, of course. But in the future, in 5 years, 6 years, I don't know, 10 years, I will not be surprised if the guy is just running for it. I mean, and he might get it, to be honest. That's the scary things.
Yeah, terrifying.
It's the scary things. I mean, and it's so doing this is a revenue solution, a short-term revenue solution, but it's mostly like opening the forum to everyone and every thinking. And I don't think that's good because there's already too much fake news on social media.
Yeah, I think that's been one of the main pollutions of it, and where it's, like you were saying earlier, it's not been utilized to as best it could have been. So yeah, another platform doing that is quite scary, I think.
Yeah, it's sad. It's very sad. Yeah.
So from like the growth and change of Twitter, we've obviously then also seen the massive confirmation of layoffs at Meta and the changes there. Why do you think that every tech company is cutting jobs at this point?
It's not just every tech company. It's also in advertising, it's happening as well. Holding groups are doing the same. One of the reasons I think, again, I'm not a specialist on the question, but one of the reasons I think is that we all have, Meta included, we all have to invest in new talent, new resources for Web3. But this is not a revenue generating space yet. And I don't think it will be until mid-2023, perhaps end of 2023. So we're not far from it, but it's not there yet. So we're going to have to invest 20-25% of our revenue into new talent, new way of working, new resources, but talent that we have to, and time we have to spend money and not getting money back. And of course, the holding groups don't really want that. Company like Meta don't want that. They have stakeholders. They have to keep happy. So yeah, one way of keeping that is to lay off people, and what unconsciously they think are not people that are not necessarily relevant or needed. So they will lay off. Meta is in the news because it's Meta. But I mean, I can give you 10 examples that's doing it and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
Many holding groups that I will not cite here, but we all, it's the same, and it's because we're all gearing towards that space, and we can't. When social media arrived in 2006 or so, we were making enough money that we were able to create new digital department, hire people, and still keeping the traditional above the line.
Yeah.
But we can't do that anymore. We have less and less resources, less and less money, less and less budget. So you can't just open a new department, a new floor in your building and keeping everybody. So if you have a body count of 50 people and you hire 10 for Web3, you need to let go 10. I mean, it's tragic and it's horrible, but I think that's the reason. So Meta is in the forefront as Twitter because of their name.
Yeah, they're kind of
it's
taking
happening
the brunt.
across the board, from the small startup to the big holding agencies.
Well, how do you think that will change the work of agencies and brands and big tech companies? How do you think that will change it, with people having to leave and departments having to be cut to then allow more departments to join?
Well, I mean, when you have two legs and two arms, you can do a lot of things. When you cut half of it, it's always difficult. So I think it's the same. There's going to be a lack of experience, a lack of retrospective on where we come from, what has been done before. It's very good to understand where, especially in advertising, where we were in the 50s and the 80s and the 2000s and today and tomorrow. By cutting a lot of people, we're cutting a lot of expertise, a lot of experience, and it will make for a less smooth transition that we did with social media. where we were able to add people with new skills.
Yeah.
People that used to create games and stuff like this. We're not going to be able to do it. So the transition is going to be not as smooth, I think. And the work will be the one that suffer at the end, I think. I mean, on top of people, of course, and their livelihood.
And with the massive changes at Twitter, everything changing with Meta, the layoffs, what do you think that means for the future of Web 2?
I think it's we're always quick to say, well, TV is going to kill radio, and digital is going to kill the TV, and Web3 is going to kill Web 2. And it still have a lot of people that, I logged into Facebook the other day after perhaps 7 years out of it. And you have a lot of people there, and I had one post and already so many likes. So you have a lot of people active there. I think it's going to be there for a while. It will take a generation or two before it disappear. And I don't think it will totally disappear unless the power that be decide to stop it. But I think you'll be there for a while. It's like me playing PlayStation 4. There might be the PlayStation 5. I still buy games on PlayStation 4. I don't need the 5. So I think the PlayStation 4 is here for quite a while. I think it's the same. The Web 2 will still be there. The investment will not be as big, of course, but it will survive.
Yeah, I think Facebook for me is somewhere that I go to check what my mum's posting and keep in contact with her and what she's up to. And I think that's probably the direction of where it's going. You don't go on there to be current and say what's going on or see news and things like that. You just go on to check what another generation are doing. So yeah, I completely get what you mean in that way.
I got to give them credit because I'm in London for a few days. And it's not the first time I come to London from Amsterdam, of course, but I wanted to catch up with a few more people this time around. And Facebook's still the place to tell people, I'm in London. If you want to have a beer or coffee, I'm here. You know what? Much better than the other platform, I find. So I logged in after 7 years, and there was not one step missing. There was a lot of people saying, hey, in London, let's catch up through Facebook. And I was quite, impressed about it because I saw it was a dormant, mostly dormant platform. I mean, like your mum, my mum is really involved on Facebook. Yeah,
my mum is so funny on Facebook. It's great. But I think it was the way it was established with TikTok. You would never imagine going onto TikTok and dropping someone a message to say, I'm here, let's catch up. So I think the fundamentals of Facebook will always live and keep it alive, at least for a long time still, I imagine. But yeah, Facebook is a funny one. Do you think this kind of marks the beginning of Web3, this transitional period, or how do you think it will affect it?
I think it started way before. I mean, we always, because it's in our face now, we see it. But the internet was there much before we used it, and social media was there, as you can watch the movie. I mean, it was there before we all used it in London or Amsterdam. So now it's already there. It's just nobody there. If you go to Tomorrowland today, you'll see it. There's no one there. There might be a few users, but it already started. Of course, it started years ago already. It's a snowball effect. It's gonna get momentum and get bigger. And I have no doubt that it's gonna be big. It is big, and it's going to be big, even bigger than we think it will be. So I have no doubt about that. But yeah, it's already there, and that's back to what we were talking about before. Is it's been there. Let's make a plan now. And I know we kind of do, but I do think it's a little bit late.
Yeah. Do you think that these changes are forcing people to kind of open their eyes a little bit more to Web3, like people that don't work in it or don't have it as a career or just as a general passion?
I don't think outside of a lot of people, if you go in the street right now, there is not that concern. They have no idea what's coming. Like, I do believe that. I was with my family last week, and not just my parents that are older, of course, my sister, my brother, they have no idea what I'm talking about. So, and they will adopt it like they adopted, touch phone and tablet and Facebook. They will adopt it, but at the moment it's still something they heard somewhere in the Guardian or in Fox News or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
They heard about it. There's that thing, But I don't think they grasp the importance and the scale of it yet. They will very soon. But yeah, it's definitely not something that is a concern for most people yet.
Yeah, it's
for
not
good
mainstream.
reason.
Yeah, of course. I spent my weekend trying to explain to my parents what an NFT was.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty tough. I think that they have less of an idea than they did before I started explaining it. But it's strange when I think you're in a bubble, aren't you, with it, when you're having conversations about it and you're seeing things being made on it and work being posted on it. And then when you go out of that bubble and try to talk to any sort of normal person about it, you realise just how much it's, not that it's irrelevant, but how much it isn't mainstream and normal. But yeah, trying to explain what an NFT was very testing.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we talked about just before with assumption.
Yeah.
You know, we can't assume that this is a concern for everyone. We can't assume that people know the basics. We need to really be open on every brief, and that subject, Web3 is the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if your cab driver doesn't talk to you about it, then it doesn't exist yet for them.
Yeah. Do you think that we are assuming that all brands should use it as a platform and be like leveraging it?
I think they will have to at some point, but that's what I said about let's not make the mistake we made with social media and Facebook in particular, when everyone was like, we need to be there, you know, and your local laundry ad, follow me on Facebook. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why is there in it for me that I'm going to follow my local laundry that I already go every week on Facebook? What kind of things you're going to give me? Unless you have some news that I can't get from you in the first place, unless you have some kind of games that I can win a free laundry in the week, and I take laundry as an example, there's no reason. And I think it's going to be the same here. It's like, is there a reason for you to be here? Yes. Then if so, let's be smart about it. But we have to think of the reason first. I don't know if you remember the race to likes. Old KPIs were like, how many likes we have on that post? And now we know it was completely irrelevant. But at the time it was, you know, you would go in meetings, hey, we got like 10,000 likes. Yeah, great, hot shot.
Yeah, and then you're like, but what? Why?
Why?
What does that mean?
Did it break? Did it translate in sales? Most of the time, no, it didn't.
Yeah.
So there was no correlation between the result in the street or in shops or in stores with liking a post on Facebook. So I think it's going to be the same. And that's why I'm stressing that we need to not make the same mistake again. We can't just repeat history.
Yeah, very much. I think it is that brands are now realizing, wait, what is the return on investment of thousands of likes? It's great, and we're seen in that moment, but what does that bring us? And yeah, we're the same with like laundrettes and things. It's become so mainstream that you would check their Facebook or their Instagram. Like I am so bad. I don't go to a restaurant without checking their Instagram and seeing what it looks like. And yeah, but it's like, it's normal, isn't it, to check and be like, oh, what do I want to eat? Let me see. And me and my friends are the worst for it. But then when you try and translate that and imagine what that would be in Web3, it's so difficult to kind of bridge that gap. Will we need laundrettes in Web3? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure there will be a response to that in due time, but they don't have to jump on it straight away. But the scarcity of budget and I think make clients today in 2023, I don't even say 2022, but 2023, more they do ask for more accountability. So I do hope that in partnership with our clients, we will be able to make better and smarter decisions that we did back in the days with social media.
Cool. So in this part, we asked you to bring a few things to the table that you absolutely hate to discuss. I mean, I would love to hear them. I'm interested in what you've brought.
There's so many. I was actually surprised. You know, you did ask me before, and I was like, oh damn. So
I think it seems quite a difficult question at first when you first read it to think, what do I hate? And then when you get into it, it's like, wait, am I just negative about everything?
It is. And then I was talking with my girlfriend about it, and she was like, oh yeah, you're not gonna have any problem finding stuff. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm not that. Like, it's funny to try to think of things that I know you a little bit, and they all not big issues, of course, but I've got three though. So the first one is one thing that I hate, and I always hate it, and I hate to say it, I apologize to everyone, but it's food delivery. I never liked food delivery.
What? Why?
And I hate ordering food, delivery food. I just don't like it. I'm sorry. I think it's a great system. I think it's great, but not for me. I'm sorry, not for me. And every time we do, or every time I did, most of the time because my partner want to do it, and I'm like, no, let's just drive to the shop and take it. Most of the time we do it, and most of the time I'm like, nah, I don't want to do it. I don't like waiting.
Okay.
I don't like that quite often there's something wrong. You can't really ask, you can't just go back to the store and say, sorry, you forgot ketchup. It's too late. It's home. So you're like, okay, well, I'll do without it. What amazed me is ordering. The other day in the office, we were very busy, and some people at lunch wanted to order ramen delivery. And I'm like, ramen? I couldn't order ramen delivery. Like, it will come cold. How can the broth kind of stay hot, right?
Yeah.
So all this kind of thing, first world problem. It's like, I don't like food delivery. I'd rather going out. And I think it's a break as well. It's nice to go out and talk to human beings about ordering food and having a break, even if it's just mean going to around the corner and bring it home. But I will always choose to go to the store, even if I have to drive 5 minutes and take it home. And then you have all this waste at home. I mean, did you ever order McDonald's or Vietnamese food and you got all this container, they don't fit in a bin? It's an extra bin. I mean, it's just, I don't know, there's something I don't like. But I know most people love it, so...
I feel like you passionately hate it.
I made a lot of enemies there, but it's something I never liked. Do you like it?
Yeah, I do. I do think that there is an element of it that is like the convenience culture that we live in, and I am so bad for that. And I think I catch myself sometimes of like ordering an Uber or ordering food, and I'm like, why is it a 10-minute wait, or why is it this long? And you think about it in the grand scheme of things and of life, and you think, I can wait 10 minutes, that's going to be fine.
Well,
but
yeah, that's the other thing on the more philosophical level than just your ramen being cold and waiting by the window, looking at the map where that poor guy or poor girl cycling is. How did we go from hunters and gatherers to having food delivered to a door, warm? I mean, that's mind-blowing to me. It's like, that's when we really we really left the animals aspect of us behind, when you have food delivered to you. I mean, we don't even have to go to the supermarket, which was already not really hard, right?
Yeah.
Everything is there all the time. If there's no salad that week, you're always like, what? There's no salad? So now having food delivered to you is quite an evolution. I don't know. I don't really like it.
Maybe it's the overall evolution of it that you think is strange. I mean, I do like it. I don't use it that often, but when I do use it, it's like quite a nice treat.
Yeah.
And I'm the loser who's like waiting at my door before they've even rang my bell, waiting for, just stood there like, where's my food? Is it here?
Pizza. I can do pizza delivery because it will always stay warm, and you can eat it even if it's colder or whatever. And it's, but the rest, I always find it. There's a lot of plastic, a lot of utensils. There's a lot of, especially with Asian food, for example, there's a lot of pot in a pot. And then you have to, I just get lost. The table is filled with plastic cups and containers. And
I do think that is an interesting point of it. And I think there is probably more that brands or like food places can do to try and combat that. But it is just, we're wrapped up in that world of convenience when even going out to somewhere is too much hard work, and you'd rather it just come to you. It
comes down to time, And I feel like the more we try to save time with innovation, the less time we have. It's kind of weird, We don't have to go to cinema anymore. We don't have to buy CDs anymore. We don't have to go to the shop to get food anymore. And we still don't have enough time. So I'm not sure if it's always reaching the goals that it was supposed to reach.
Yeah, I think everything all kind of falls back full circle as well. Like you mentioned, not having to buy CDs anymore because everything is on your phone or whatever. But it's now such a cool thing to have a record player and to buy vinyls.
Yeah.
And it's kind of all come back round. So maybe the food delivery, it will wear off and people will think, wait, remember when we used to go to restaurants and it was a nice experience?
I think you already did. Like there is a lot of them that close in Amsterdam, actually.
Thank you so much, Jerome, for joining me on Untalented. I'm excited to see how many people also hate food delivery.
I didn't make friends there.
I don't think that you've made many friends there for sure. But no, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, looking forward to catching up with you soon.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. It's great to be in London. It's even greater when you get to meet you and do that kind of exercise. It's quite fun. Thank you.